Scientists have found blood on the Shroud of Turin. But this isn't just any blood. It's from a man who suffered unimaginable trauma. The pattern matches the biblical account of Jesus' crucifixion down to the smallest detail. But here's where it gets really interesting. New imaging technology has revealed something on the shroud that no one expected to find. It's a clue so small, yet so significant, that it might just prove this cloth wrapped the body of Christ himself. Are you ready to see evidence that could change the course of history? You're about to see something that defies explanation, an image that has left scientists scratching their heads for decades. The Shroud of Turin, a simple linen cloth, bears a faint, brownish image of a man's body. But this isn't just any ordinary stain or artwork. When you look closely, you'll see the front and back view of a tall, bearded man with long hair. His body shows signs of terrible injuries, wounds that match the biblical account of Jesus' crucifixion. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. In 1898, an amateur photographer named Secondo Pia made a startling discovery. When he developed the negatives of his photographs of the shroud, he was shocked to find that the image became clearer and more lifelike. It was as if the shroud itself was a photographic negative, created centuries before photography was invented. How is this possible? But wait, there's more. In the 1970s, scientists made another mind-blowing discovery about the shroud's image. Using VP8 image analyzer technology, they found that the image contains three-dimensional information. Unlike any known painting or photograph, the shroud's image has depth. It's as if it captured the actual shape and contours of a human body. This 3D property has left researchers absolutely baffled. You might be thinking, couldn't a skilled medieval artist have created this image? Well, that's where things get even stranger. The image on the shroud is incredibly thin, just a few fibers deep on the cloth's surface. There are no brushstrokes, no pigments, and no signs of artistic technique. In fact, scientists still can't explain how the image was formed. It's almost as if the cloth recorded a burst of energy that scorched its surface. So what could have caused this sweet, supernatural-looking image? Some researchers believe it might be the result of a sudden, intense burst of light and energy. Could this be a snapshot of the moment of resurrection? It's a theory that has gained traction among some scientists and theologians. They suggest that a powerful event, beyond our current understanding of physics, could have imprinted Jesus' image onto the cloth as his body transformed. But the mysterious image is just the beginning of the shroud's secrets. As we dig deeper, you'll discover even more shocking evidence that challenges everything we thought we knew about this ancient artifact. Are you ready to uncover the truth behind the Shroud of Turin? The image on the shroud is perplexing, but it's what you can't see that might change everything. Beneath the surface lies a clue so powerful, it could rewrite history. Are you prepared to confront the possibility that this cloth might have touched the very flesh of Jesus Christ? Let's take a closer look at the Shroud of Turin. You might be surprised to learn that it's not just an image we're dealing with here. This ancient cloth is stained with actual blood. Yes, you heard that right. Real human blood. But this isn't just any ordinary blood sample. It's evidence that tells a story of unimaginable suffering. When scientists examined the shroud, they found something truly remarkable. The blood stains on the cloth show a clear separation between blood cells and serum. This is exactly what happens when blood clots and then gets disturbed. It's as if the cloth was wrapped around a real body with real wounds. But here's where it gets even more interesting. These bloodstains match up perfectly with the biblical account of Jesus' injuries. Imagine for a moment the scene described in the Gospels. Jesus beaten and scourged, crowned with thorns, nailed to a cross, and finally pierced in the side with a spear. Now look at the shroud. You'll see blood stains that correspond to every single one of these wounds. There are marks from the flogging on the back, blood flows from the head, consistent with a crown of thorns, and stains on the wrists and feet, where nails would have been driven in. Even the wound in the side is there, just as the Bible describes. But wait, there's more. The blood stains on the shroud aren't just in the right places. They also behave in a way that's consistent with real wounds on a real body. The flow patterns, the way the blood has soaked into the cloth, it all points to one shocking conclusion. This blood came from a man who suffered terribly before he died. Now, you might be wondering, could this really be the blood of Jesus Christ himself? It's a question that has haunted researchers for years. And while we can't say for certain, the evidence is compelling. Forensic analysis of the bloodstains suggests they came from a torture victim. The wounds match not just the biblical account, but also what we know about Roman crucifixion methods. Think about it for a moment. If this is indeed the burial shroud of Jesus, we're looking at physical evidence of the most pivotal event in Christian history. It's almost too incredible to believe, isn't it? And yet, the evidence is there, written in blood on this ancient cloth. But hold on, because we're not done yet. There's something else about this blood that's even stranger. Something that has left scientists scratching their heads and believers in awe. What could it be? Well, you're about to find out, and it might just change everything you thought you knew about the Shroud of Turin. Blood might tell a powerful story, but sometimes the smallest things can reveal the biggest secrets. Hidden within the fibers of the Shroud of Turin lies a clue so tiny, you'd need a microscope to see it. Yet this microscopic evidence might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about where this mysterious cloth has been. Are you ready to uncover the truth hidden in grains of pollen? You might be surprised to learn that pollen isn't just something that makes you sneeze in the spring. It's actually a powerful tool that scientists use to trace the history of ancient objects. Every region on Earth has its own unique mix of plant species, each producing distinct pollen grains. When an object travels, it picks up these tiny particles like a botanical passport stamp. And the Shroud of Turin? Well, its pollen tells an incredible story of an unexpected journey. When researchers examined the shroud under a microscope, they found something shocking. Clinging to its ancient fibers were pollen grains from plants native to Jerusalem and Turkey. But how could this be? If the shroud was a medieval European forgery, as some have claimed, it should only contain pollen from European plants. Instead, it's carrying microscopic evidence of a journey through the Middle East. Let's take a closer look at what they found. The shroud contains pollen from plants that grow exclusively around Jerusalem, like the tumbleweed Gundelia tourniforti. This isn't just any ordinary weed. It's a plant that some believe was used to make Christ's crown of thorns. Imagine that, a direct botanical link to the very region where Jesus lived and died. But the pollen mystery doesn't stop there. Scientists also discovered pollen from plants native to the region around Istanbul, Turkey. This isn't just a random coincidence. It's as if the shroud is leaving us a trail of breadcrumbs, tracing its path from Jerusalem to its current home in Turin, Italy. Now you might be thinking, couldn't someone have just sprinkled this pollen on the shroud to make it seem authentic? That's a great question. But here's the thing. The pollen is deeply embedded in the cloth's fibers. It's not just sitting on the surface. This tells us that the shroud must have spent significant time in these regions to accumulate such a diverse and deeply ingrained pollen profile. So what journey did this cloth take to collect such an array of pollen? Well, some researchers believe they've pieced together the shroud's incredible voyage through time and space. They suggest that, after the crucifixion, the shroud was taken from Jerusalem to Edessa, modern-day Turkey, where it remained hidden for centuries. From there, it traveled to Constantinople, now Istanbul, then to France, and finally to its current home, in Turin, Italy. This pollen evidence is like a time machine, transporting us back to the very places where the shroud might have been. It's a botanical map that traces a path from the time of Christ to the present day. And it presents a major challenge to anyone who claims the shroud is a medieval European forgery. But hold on, because the shroud's journey through time is even more incredible than its journey through space. You're about to discover evidence that could shatter everything we thought we knew about when this mysterious cloth was created. Are you ready to confront a truth that might change history? In 1988, scientists thought they'd cracked the code of the Shroud of Turin once and for all. The world held its breath as a team of researchers unveiled what they believed to be the final verdict on this enigmatic artifact. Carbon dating had spoken, and its message seemed clear. But what if this groundbreaking test was fundamentally flawed? Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about the age of this mysterious cloth. Let's travel back to that fateful year. 3 renowned laboratories in Oxford, Zurich, and Arizona were given the task of determining the shroud's age using the latest carbon dating techniques. The results sent shockwaves through the scientific and religious communities alike. According to their tests, the shroud dated back to somewhere between 1260 and 1390 AD, smack in the middle of the medieval period, not the time of Jesus. Case closed, right? Not so fast. Almost immediately, controversy erupted. Believers in the shroud's authenticity were stunned, but they weren't ready to give up. And as it turns out, they might have been onto something. You see, the carbon dating results that seemed so definitive at first have come under intense scrutiny in the years since. Here's where things get really interesting. Some researchers have raised serious concerns about the samples used in the 1988 tests. They argue that the tiny piece of cloth tested might not have been representative of the entire shroud. Why? Because over the centuries, the shroud has undergone various repairs and conservation efforts. What if the sample came from one of these newer editions rather than the original fabric? But that's not all. Other scientists have pointed to potential contamination as a major issue. Think about it. The shroud is nearly 2,000 years old if it's authentic. That's a lot of time for modern materials to work their way into the fabric. Some experts believe that bacterial contamination or even the presence of a bioplastic coating on the fibers could have skewed the results, making the shroud appear much younger than it really is. Now you might be wondering, if the 1988 tests were flawed, what does that mean for the shroud's true age? Well, hold on to your seats, because newer studies have emerged that challenge everything we thought we knew. These recent investigations suggest that the shroud could be much, much, much older than the medieval period. Some researchers even believe it could date back to the time of Jesus himself. Just imagine for a moment. What if the carbon dating was completely wrong? What if this piece of cloth really did wrap the body of Christ? The implications are staggering. It would mean that we have a direct physical link to one of the most pivotal moments in human history. It would transform the shroud from a curious relic to an earth-shattering piece of evidence. Of course, we can't say for certain that the shroud is authentic. The debate rages on, with passionate arguments on both sides. But one thing is clear. The 1988 carbon dating is no longer the final word on the matter. As technology advances and new evidence comes to light, we're forced to reconsider everything we thought we knew about this mysterious cloth. But hold on tight, because we're not done yet. There's one more piece of evidence that could change everything we know about the Shroud of Turin. It's a clue so small, yet so significant, that it might just prove, once and for all, where this cloth really came from. Are you ready to uncover the final secret of the shroud? What if the key to unlocking the shroud's mysteries wasn't in its famous image, but in something so small you'd need a magnifying glass to see it? A groundbreaking discovery has linked the shroud to an unexpected location in Israel, and it might just be the smoking gun researchers have been searching for. Are you ready to see the Shroud of Turin in a whole new light? Picture this: a team of textile experts examining the Shroud of Turin, not looking at its famous image, but focusing on something seemingly insignificant: the stitching on its backing. As they peered closely at the ancient fabric, they noticed something extraordinary. A unique stitch pattern, hidden from view for centuries, suddenly caught their attention. But why is this tiny detail so important? Well, you're about to find out. Here's where things get really interesting. This isn't just any old stitch pattern. It turns out that this particular style of stitching is incredibly rare. In fact, it's only been found in one other place in the entire world. Can you guess where? Believe it or not, it's at Masada, an ancient fortress in Israel. Now you might be wondering, what's so special about Masada? Well, let me tell you, this isn't just any ordinary archaeological site. Masada was a key location during the Jewish revolt against the Romans, right around the time of Jesus. It's a place frozen in time, preserving artifacts and textiles from the exact era when Jesus would have walked the earth. This connection to Masada is huge. It's not just about a similar sewing technique. It's about placing the shroud in a specific time and place. This tiny stitch is like a time stamp, linking the shroud to first-century Jewish textiles. It's as if the cloth itself is whispering to us, telling us about its true origins. But wait, it gets even more fascinating. This stitch isn't just a random similarity. It's a specific technique that was used in a particular cultural context. Okay, it's like finding a fingerprint that matches perfectly with a specific time and place in history. This isn't just any evidence. It's the kind of detail that makes historians and archaeologists sit up and take notice. Now you might be thinking, could this be the proof we've been waiting for? Well, many experts believe it just might be. This small, hidden stitch could be the smoking gun that proves the shroud's authenticity once and for all. It's a tangible link to the world Jesus lived in, a world we can only imagine through ancient texts and archaeological remains. But don't just take my word for it. Textile experts and historians are buzzing with excitement over this discovery. They say that this kind of evidence is incredibly valuable in tracing the origins of ancient artifacts. It's not just about the big, obvious features. Sometimes it's the tiniest details that tell the most compelling story. One expert put it this way: this stitching pattern is like a cultural fingerprint. It tells us not just when the shroud might have been made, but gives us insight into the people who created it. Another researcher added, finding this connection to Masada is like discovering a missing piece of a 2,000-year-old puzzle. It's a game changer in how we view the shroud's history. So, what does all this mean? Well, it suggests that the Shroud of Turin might be much older than some have claimed. It places it squarely in the time and place of Jesus, challenging those who've dismissed it as a medieval forgery. This tiny stitch could be rewriting history right before our eyes. But hold on, because the story of the shroud isn't over yet. As incredible as this hidden stitch is, the cloth might hold an even more amazing secret. Are you ready to see something that could change everything we thought we knew about this ancient artifact? Because what comes next is truly mind-blowing. Imagine looking at a photograph and suddenly realizing you can see around corners and behind objects. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what researchers discovered when they took a closer look at the Shroud of Turin. Could this 2,000-year-old piece of linen be hiding a secret so advanced it puts our modern technology to shame? Let's uncover the mind-bending truth about the shroud's hidden dimensions. Scientists have long been puzzled by the mysterious image on the Shroud of Turin. But recent discoveries have taken this mystery to a whole new level. Using cutting-edge imaging technology, researchers have found something truly astonishing. The image on the shroud contains three-dimensional information. You might be wondering, what does that even mean? Well, let me explain. When scientists analyzed the shroud using special 3D imaging tools, they found that the image wasn't flat like a normal photograph. Instead, it contained depth information, as if it were capturing the actual shape and contours of a human body. It's almost like an ancient hologram, frozen in time on a piece of cloth. This discovery has sent shockwaves through the scientific community. How could an artifact from thousands of years ago contain information that even our most advanced computers struggle to replicate? It's a question that has left researchers scratching their heads and wondering if we're dealing with something far beyond our current understanding. But the story doesn't end there. Scientists have taken this incredible discovery even further. They've used the 3D information hidden in the shroud's image to create detailed models of the man it depicts. These models show us a level of detail that's simply mind-blowing. We can see the shape of the face, the contours of the body, even the way the cloth would have draped over the figure. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what does this mean for the shroud's origin? Well, that's where things get really interesting. This 3D property isn't something you'd find in a medieval painting or even in modern photography. It's completely unique to the shroud. Some researchers believe this could be evidence that the image was created through some kind of energy burst or radiation, perhaps during the moment of resurrection itself. Just imagine for a second. What if this cloth actually captured a snapshot of one of the most pivotal moments in human history? It's an idea that's both thrilling and mind-boggling. Could the resurrection of Jesus have created an image so advanced that we're only now beginning to understand it with our most cutting-edge technology? Of course, not everyone agrees with this theory. Some scientists argue that there might be other explanations for the 3D properties of the image. But even skeptics have to admit that this discovery raises some fascinating questions about the shroud's origins and the technology used to create it. As we dig deeper into the mysteries of the shroud, each new discovery seems to raise more questions than answers. The 3D properties of the image challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient artifacts and imaging techniques. It forces us to reconsider what might be possible, even in the distant past. But hold on tight, because we're not done yet. As incredible as this 3D hologram theory is, there's one final mystery about the shroud that could change everything we know. Are you ready to see something that might just rewrite history as we know it? Because what comes next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the face of Jesus Christ. You've seen countless depictions of Jesus in art and media. Now imagine seeing a face so different, yet so compellingly real, that it makes you question every image you've ever known. Thanks to cutting-edge forensic analysis of the Shroud of Turin, we may be closer than ever to unveiling the true face of Christ. What we're about to show you could shake the foundations of religious iconography forever. Scientists and researchers have been working tirelessly to reconstruct Jesus' appearance from the shroud. Using advanced forensic techniques, they've pieced together an image that might just change everything you thought you knew about how Jesus looked. Are you ready to come face to face with history? Let's start with what they found. The man on the shroud isn't the fair-skinned, European-looking Jesus we often see in paintings. Instead, the image reveals a man with features typical of Middle Eastern people from the time of Jesus. He has a beard, a mustache, and shoulder-length hair parted in the middle. But that's just the beginning. You might be surprised to learn that this Jesus appears muscular and tall. Researchers estimate his height between 5 feet 7 inches and 6 feet 2 inches, quite different from the often slender, shorter Jesus we see in many artworks. It's as if we're seeing Jesus as he really was, a man who worked with his hands, who walked long distances, who lived a physical life. But how did they create this image? The scientists used high-resolution imaging and 3D modeling techniques to analyze every detail of the shroud. They studied the depth and shadows of the image, mapping out the contours of the face and body. It's like they've peeled back layers of time to reveal the man beneath. Now, you might be thinking, but how do we know this is really what Jesus looked like? Well, that's where things get even more interesting. The features revealed in this reconstruction match up surprisingly well with ancient descriptions of Jesus. Historical texts from the time describe a man with a Semitic appearance, exactly what we see in this new image. Let's look at some specific features. The shape of the nose, the structure of the jawline. These details align with descriptions found in ancient texts. It's as if we're seeing a photograph from 2,000 years ago, bringing to life the man who changed the course of history. Can you imagine what it would be like to look into the eyes of Jesus? This reconstruction gives us that chance. The eyes that stare back at us are intense, penetrating. They seem to hold the wisdom and compassion described in the Gospels. But what if this really is the face of Jesus? What would that mean for our understanding of history, of faith, of art? The implications are staggering. It could change how we visualize biblical stories, how we create religious art, even how we think about Jesus as a historical figure. The reactions to this image have been powerful and varied. Some religious leaders have expressed awe at the possibility of seeing the true face of Christ. Others remain skeptical, emphasizing the need for more scientific validation. Historians are fascinated by how this image aligns with what we know about first-century Judea. One thing's for sure, this reconstruction has sparked intense debate and soul-searching. It challenges us to confront our preconceptions and ask ourselves, how much of what we think we know about Jesus is based on fact, and how much on centuries of artistic interpretation? As we gaze upon this face, a face that might have looked out over the Sea of Galilee, that might have smiled at children, that might have wept in the Garden of Gethsemane, we're left with a profound question. Could this be the actual face of Jesus Christ? But even as we contemplate this incredible possibility, an even bigger question looms, a question that cuts to the heart of faith, science, and human understanding. Are you ready to confront the ultimate mystery of the Shroud of Turin? Imagine standing at the edge of a great chasm, peering into the depths of history and faith. We've journeyed through blood evidence, pollen mysteries, and even glimpsed what might be the true face of Jesus. But now we face the ultimate question, one that has puzzled scholars, believers, and skeptics for centuries. Is the Shroud of Turin really the burial cloth of Jesus Christ? Let's take a moment to recap what we've discovered. The blood stains on the shroud match the wounds described in the crucifixion accounts. Pollen from Jerusalem clings to its fibers, placing it in the right time and place. A hidden stitch links it to first-century Jewish textiles. And the image itself? It contains 3D information that our most advanced technology struggles to replicate. But for every piece of evidence supporting the shroud's authenticity, skeptics have their doubts. The 1988 carbon dating suggested a medieval origin, though that test has since been questioned. Some argue that the image could be the work of a skilled artist, while others point out the lack of historical records before the 14th century. You might be wondering, why does this debate matter so much? Well, the significance of the shroud goes far beyond just a piece of cloth. For believers, it represents tangible proof of Jesus' suffering and resurrection, the cornerstone of Christian faith. Imagine touching something that might have wrapped the body of Christ himself. It's a powerful connection to a pivotal moment in history. Skeptics, on the other hand, see the shroud as a fascinating artifact that reveals much about human nature, faith, and our desire for tangible connections to the divine. They argue that the search for scientific proof of religious beliefs is misguided, and that faith should stand on its own without physical evidence. But here's something interesting. Even some scientists who don't believe in the shroud's authenticity are captivated by its mysteries. One researcher noted, "The shroud not only preserves the physical remnants of this crucible of pain, but also serves as a powerful testament to the resilience of faith and the enduring message of hope that emerged from the darkest hours of human history." So, we return to our central question. Is this the actual burial cloth of Jesus? The truth is, we may never know for certain. The Shroud of Turin remains one of the most studied and debated artifacts in human history. It continues to challenge our understanding of science, history, and faith. What do you think? As you consider the evidence we've explored, ask yourself, does the shroud's authenticity matter to your personal beliefs? Or is its power as a symbol of faith and human suffering enough, regardless of its origin? The search for truth about the shroud teaches us something profound about ourselves. It shows our desire to connect with the past, to find physical evidence for our spiritual beliefs, and to unravel the mysteries of our existence. Whether you see it as a holy relic or a medieval creation, the Shroud of Turin continues to captivate our imagination and challenge our understanding of faith and science. As we conclude our journey into the mysteries of the shroud, remember that some questions may never have definitive answers. And perhaps that's okay. Maybe the real power of the shroud lies not in proving or disproving religious beliefs, but in inspiring us to contemplate the big questions of life, death, and what lies beyond. As we reach the end of our journey into the mysteries of the Shroud of Turin, one thing is clear: this ancient cloth continues to captivate the world. Whether you believe it's the actual burial shroud of Jesus or a medieval creation, its power to inspire wonder and debate is undeniable. The shroud teaches us something profound about the human spirit. It shows our deep desire to connect with the past and find tangible evidence for our beliefs. But it also challenges us to grapple with the complex relationship between faith and science. What do you think about the Shroud of Turin? Has our exploration changed your perspective? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your view might just shed new light on this enduring mystery that has fascinated humanity for centuries.